I mean, we have this like terrifying creature and this poor guy. I think this book was so well written. Hi, my name's Amira, and here is a productive writing vlog as an aspiring writer and student. So on the way there, I did pick up a little bit of a treat for myself. It's this delicious double chocolate brownie, and it also has like walnuts in it. And I feel like a treat is good motivation for studying and for writing. And one thing about me is that whenever I pass a bookshelf, I always end up picking up a book because I just get interested really quickly. So on the way here, I did see this book, The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. And the premise of this book is very interesting. So after these 4 siblings get their fortune told by this mysterious woman, they find out when each of them is going to die. And that's a bit of a grim premise, but honestly it seemed very interesting because this book follows their entire lives. And I was able to read a bit of it. I got about, I think, 20 pages in until I did have to get back to some other work. But so far it seems pretty interesting. And then after I was done with reading, I did have to get some schoolwork done because I'm still a student and that does take priority. But luckily I didn't have a lot to do today, so I was able to sort that out pretty quickly. So after that was done, I did start writing. I've been in a bit of a writing slump, so I did decide to come up with a prompt and just free write. So what I was thinking of is combining 2 things that I really love. So I love baking and I also love a good heist. Not in real life, of course, just like a heist story or a heist movie. So I decided to free write for a little bit about a bakery heist. I was able to write for a good 25 minutes, which isn't much, but it's better than nothing, and I just want to get into the habit of writing every day. And then after that, I did have to switch floors because it was getting a bit loud and crowded on mine. And on the way there, I did look at a bookshelf and I did pick up 3 more books. So the first book that I ended up picking up was Why Fairy Tales Stick: The Evolution and Relevance of a Genre. Honestly, the title was really eye-catching and I'm very interested in fairy tales in general. Like, I love reading novels that are based on fairy tales. So it was very interesting, and also the cover looked pretty cool, so I picked it up. The second book that I ended up picking up was 10-minute plays for 2 or more actors. I don't really know why this caught my attention. I think it's because I've started looking at a lot of like improv. Recently, I've also really been into Shakespeare and watching different plays, so I just wanted to look at some more original plays, maybe ones that are not as famous, so that's why I picked up this book. I also ended up picking up Technology and Identity in Young Adult Fiction. This is very relevant at the moment because of generative AI and how it's affecting publishing. So this book is actually over a decade old. So I just wanted to see the differences between what they thought about the future of technology in young adult fiction and how it actually is at the moment. So I did end up reading a few pages out of each of them just to make sure I was actually interested. And then it was time to head home. Hi! So I just wanted to start out by talking about some of the books that I'm currently reading. I am absolutely a mood reader, so I read any genre that I find interesting, and I'm usually reading, let's say, between 3 to 5 books at once, because I get bored like really easily. So one book that I'm reading right now, I'm actually rereading. I read it originally and I absolutely loved it, and I wanted to read it again. It's Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, which is a very interesting title. I think this book was so well written that I had to read it again. It's very rare that a book affects me so much, or I like a book so much, that I feel like I have to reread it, and this is absolutely one of them. So this book doesn't shy away from anything, and I absolutely love that. I mean, the title is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, and they're not lying. I feel like that's the type of title that maybe a publisher would think would catch people's attention, but in reality the book doesn't have any substance, but that's the exact opposite of what happened when I actually read it. So the story follows Ernest, who has a very interesting family, going on a family reunion ski trip where a dead body shows up, and it's up to him to figure out who killed the person. And it's especially interesting because he comes from a family where every single person has killed someone. So there's different sections of the book, and the book alternates between the current timeline, which is when they're on the ski trip and Ernest is trying to figure out who killed this person, and it also gives us a lot of flashbacks for each of the characters and how they've killed different people. So it has different sections like my brother, my stepsister, my wife, my father, so the book really doesn't shy away from giving you the plot that you're looking for. In my second reread, it's almost as good as the first one because I'm catching so many things that I didn't before. I think that's the appeal of reading like a murder mystery for the second time, because you really get to look at all the clues that you missed and a lot of the subtle like hints the author was leaving. The second book that I'm currently reading is also a murder mystery. I'm kind of on a kick. So it's Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. This book is so incredibly interesting, mainly because of the main character, Vera. She is this Asian old lady, and she's like a typical Asian mom, and I just find her character so incredibly unique and interesting. I feel like in a lot of murder mysteries, the detective character is very like smart and serious all the time, and they're like very book smart, so they know a lot about different poisons and different things, but Vera is more street smart, like she understands people. I'm currently about 80 pages into this book and I'm absolutely loving it. I absolutely love Vera, especially because she's such a fun character. I'm also getting back into some Agatha Christie. So if you for some reason don't know, Agatha Christie is like one of the most famous, or I would say the most famous murder mystery writers, and I did read one of her books and I absolutely fell in love with the way that she writes mysteries, so I am reading a second one. I'm currently reading Murder on the Orient Express, and I'm also working on a little like side project related to that book. So yeah, that's what I'm currently reading. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this book that I picked up. It's Why Fairy Tales Stick: The Evolution and Relevance of a Genre by Zach Zipes. Like I said before, the title was very interesting to me, but also the cover is a bit horrifying. I mean, we have this like terrifying creature and this poor guy. Honestly, it might be a bit of an underreaction. I mean, if this thing was behind me, I don't think I would just be a little bit scared. I would be screaming for my life. But this book seemed especially interesting once I looked at the table of contents. I mean, the different chapters seem so genuinely interesting. For example, chapter 4, The Moral Strains of Fairy Tales and Fantasy. As someone who's very into philosophy, especially moral philosophy, I am very excited to read that section. And it also seems like there are a couple chapters that are specific to specific stories, like chapter 5, The Male Key to Bluebeard's Secret, and also chapter 6, Hansel and Gretel, on translating abandonment, fear, and hunger. So honestly, I'm very excited to read this. I usually don't read nonfiction. I read a bit, but it's not my preferred genre. I'm mostly a fiction person, so this will be very interesting. I did end up reading a little bit more of this book that I picked up, The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. It is not as interesting as I thought. I thought there were going to be more like fantasy elements or sort of supernatural or like magical realism, because the premise of the book does start out with these 4 siblings finding out when they're gonna die. So I was, hoping for a bit more of that sort of magical element of it, but it just seems like a literary fiction. And as for the style, it might be a little bit too flowery for me. I mean, there's a lot of descriptions which are good, but I'm definitely more of a plot person. I like it when the plot is a bit more fast-paced and it kind of moves on. And right now it feels a little bit slow. I'm gonna keep reading it because I do have some hope. I mean, the characters are very interesting, and especially the character relationships, but I'm not sure if this is gonna be for me. If it doesn't end up picking up in the next couple of chapters, I think I will have to DNF this one. And I ended up finishing up my day by doing a little bit more schoolwork. That's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.